Good afternoon to you. Welcome to National Desk here on N2. I'm Shannon Cake in today for Kelly Sadler. Thanks so much for being with us today. Breaking right off the top today, Attorney General Pam Bondi has been fired. According to sources familiar with the matter, the president has been expressing a good bit of frustration behind the scenes that Bondi has not moved quickly enough on indictments of Democrats and holding them accountable over matters regarding lawfare. Bondi allegedly informed of her ouster just last night, before the president addressed the nation at 9 p.m. Todd Blanche, the deputy AG, is now stepping in as interim attorney general. He had some comments a couple of moments ago. Let's get to Washington, where our national correspondent Logan Ratick is standing by with a bit more details on this breaking news. Logan?
Well, Shannon, it had been a rumor throughout the morning, and President Trump made it official this afternoon by firing Attorney General Pam Bondi. And the president, sources close to him tell Newsmax that he had been expressing frustration that Pam Bondi had not moved quickly enough on indictments of Democrats to hold them accountable over lawfare, among other things. President Trump reportedly informed Bondi of his decision to fire her as AG last night ahead of his speech to the nation on the war in Iran, but also after the two attended oral arguments at the Supreme Court earlier in the day on the topic of birthright citizenship. Bondi has also reportedly returned to her home in Florida. There was also growing frustration in the administration over Bondi's handling of the release of the Epstein files. Her deputy, who's now the interim attorney general, Todd Blanche, says, quote, Pam Bondi led this department with strength and conviction, and I'm grateful for her leadership and friendship. Thank you to President Trump for the trust and the opportunity to serve as acting attorney general. We will continue backing the blue, enforcing the law, and doing everything in our power to keep America safe, unquote. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin is reportedly the president's top choice for attorney general, and the former representative from New York has the support of congressional Republicans. In the House, South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace writing on X, quote, if the reports that Lee Zeldin will be replacing Pam Bondi as attorney general are true, I welcome it. Bondi handled the Epstein files in a terrible manner and made the situation far worse than it had to be for President Trump. I look forward to a new attorney general committed to getting justice for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, unquote. It is unclear when President Trump will announce Bondi's successor, but she is now the second cabinet member fired by President Trump in the last month. And Shannon, there are some rumblings here in Washington that she may not be the last. Back to you.
What do you know about that? I mean, we've heard that others may go and that the president is really trying, as he pushes into his second year here, to surround himself with loyalists. Who are you hearing? You've been on the beat a while there in D.C. What are you hearing?
Well, again, we don't want to cross that bridge before we get there, but the two names that we're hearing could be replaced sometime in the near future, DNI Tulsi Gabbard, especially in light of the Joe Kent resignation and Gabbard's recent hearing on Capitol Hill. But also there's been scandals surrounding Lori Chavez de Remer, who is the labor secretary. So those are two names that you should watch out for in terms of possible replacements coming forward. But again, Bondi, there had been rumors for a while now about the disappointment about her handling of the Epstein files, about certain prosecutions, the James Comey case going nowhere, Letitia James case going nowhere. So this is something that's been talked about for quite some time, but it really happened quickly today in terms of those rumors coming out and then the president confirming it, before we even came on the air here at 2 o'clock Eastern time. That Pam Bondi is no longer the attorney general. So Todd Blanche, who we know was the former personal attorney for President Trump, is the acting attorney general. He could end up being the attorney general. He could be nominated by President Trump. And then, with Lee Zeldin, who I mentioned is seen as the front runner to replace Bondi. It remains to be seen if he'd want to leave EPA. Where the president thinks he's doing a good job as the administrator. So a big decision coming forward for the president, and if it comes from outside of the administration, this replacement, we could potentially see another senator from a red state where a governor would be able to quickly appoint a replacement, as opposed to if you were to try to pull somebody out of the House, then there would be a vacant seat and a special election would need to be held.
Logan Ratick on the beat in Washington for us. We appreciate it. Whatever the president does do, he needs to move quickly as he has control of both the House and the Senate to get things approved right now. You only need the Senate, of course, to get things and nominations pushed through. Ed Henry, the host of The Big Take and The Briefing with Ed Henry, is joining us right now. That's really your big takeaway, Ed, is right, Todd Blanche is interim right now, but anything the president wants to do in terms of replacement, if he wants somebody else, he's got to get it in now.
Yeah, before you potentially lose the Senate. I think Logan put his finger on something that I've been hearing. So people close to the president say that something that really caught his eye recently is how quickly Kristi Noem was replaced. He found a popular Republican senator in Markwayne Mullin from Oklahoma, safe red state, as Logan reported. And he said, all these people around the president have been saying, in a tightly divided Senate, you can't lose any senators and you're not going to get anybody confirmed. He got Markwayne Mullin confirmed in, a week and a half, 2 weeks. Right. Now, I'm not saying you have 5 or 6 people ready to go like that, but let me throw out a couple of names. Ted Cruz from Texas. You've got a Republican governor there. Who could all of a sudden appoint as Ted Cruz's replacement Ken Paxton, who's in a primary with John Cornyn. And all of a sudden, John Cornyn is free to win that seat to re-election. And Ken Paxton, who's a MAGA favorite, is all of a sudden got the Ted Cruz seat. Now, I don't know that Ted Cruz wants to leave the Senate,
right?
But if he's the Attorney General and he's got all kinds of power and feels like he can actually make a difference, maybe all of a sudden it will be attractive. But the bottom line is the president is looking at shaking some things up, and I think he has his eye on the calendar. 2 dates. The date of the midterm elections, right, where you've got to kind of rally the base, which is deflated in some ways about Iran, maybe the Epstein files and other things, and get some people who are fighters. Pam Bondi was not seen as someone who had the president's back, a loyalist, as you were saying a moment ago. And the second date on the calendar is the day after the midterms. If the Republicans lose the House and or the Senate, this is a full-on political war. They're going to be investigating the president, trying to impeach the president, everything. Remember the movie The Godfather, wartime, consigliere? Sure. Let's go to the mattresses. You can't have a Pam Bondi saying, well, let me think about this. You need people as Attorney General, DHS Secretary, you pick the job, who are ready to go to the mattresses for this president. And I think in private, he's been a little frustrated about some of the people around him being a little bit mealy-mouthed, if you will.
I know you got to go. You got a couple shows. You're a little busy in the afternoons around here.
Not for you.
But thank you. If you'll indulge me one more minute, I do want to get your take on this. Let's throw up the President Trump's post on Truth Social about Pam Bondi a moment ago. He said this: Pam Bondi is a great American patriot, a loyal friend. And he goes on, she faithfully served, and she's going to go on to do something else, and that sort of thing. On that note, Pam Bondi was Attorney General in the state of Florida, Trump term 1. She fought for President Trump term 1's every piece of legislation that came down the pike. I covered her as a local reporter in the state of Florida at the time, and she really was loyal to President Trump back then, in large part responsible from turning a partially purple state at the time of Florida that was transitioning to red, and she really got that done legally. So she was very loyal to him. Is that why she's sitting in this position, but you're saying she's just not tough enough?
Yeah, that was then, this is now. Okay, we're in, this is the big leagues. Like, no offense to being Attorney General of the state of Florida, but that's one thing. Now you're the Attorney General for the United States, and he's the Commander-in-Chief. He's in the middle of prosecuting a war in Iran. And frankly, I don't want to exaggerate or be melodramatic, but he's prosecuting a political war back here at home. I mean, the Democrats are not fully funding the Department of Homeland Security. They're trying to defund ICE. I mean, you can go down the list. And again, this is a war between now and November. And I can take you behind the scenes and say that some weeks ago, I was told the president had a lunch with some friends and Pam Bondi's name came up. And he said literally something to the effect of, she's not doing anything. He was frustrated the way I heard the story. And what was he referring to? James Comey, John Brennan, all these Democrat characters, Adam Schiff, Eric Swalwell, who he believes the president should be investigated. All the president knows is that when he was out of office, they literally tried to put him in prison. Now he wins a landslide victory, and his attorney general can't get an indictment of James Comey, can't get an indictment or conviction of Adam Schiff, and for all these things they've done, Letitia James, you can go down the list. So I think the president's been frustrated. He finally reached a boiling point. And I think that calendar again, if you're going to move on somebody to replace her and maybe others in a cabinet reshuffle, got to do it before November, when all of a sudden there may be a new sheriff in town where the Democrats may take the House and or the Senate. He wants to get his people in place. And yes, Pam Bondi's been loyal on the border and fighting crime, as he said there. But so is Kash Patel. He's got people doing that. He needs somebody to go in there and clean house, drain the swamp. I don't think Pam Bondi was doing that.
And so it begins. Ed Henry, host of The Big Take and The Briefing with Ed Henry. I know you're a busy guy. Appreciate you stopping by.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
Good to see you. Joining me now, the director of the Center for AI and Technology at Independent Women's Forum, Carrie Sheffield. Carrie, let's get you right out of the gate on the news here. The president, once again, will throw up that Truth Social post moments ago, pushing out that Pam Bondi is a great American patriot, loyal friend who faithfully served as my AG over the past year. Pam did a tremendous job, he wrote, overseeing a massive crackdown in crime across our country, murders plummeting to their lowest levels since 1900. We love Pam, the president wrote. She'll be transitioning to a much-needed and important new job in the private sector, announced at a date in the near future. And our Deputy Attorney General and a very talented and respected legal mind, Todd Blanche, will step in to serve. Carrie, your thoughts? Todd Blanche, acting AG at the moment.
Yeah, I think Todd is probably just kind of a seat warmer at this moment. I thought Ed's throwing out the name of Ted Cruz was very interesting as a possible replacement because, yes, Ted is a firebrand. He's unafraid. But Lee Zeldin would also be very strong as well. I've known Lee from my days back in New York 10 years ago. He's an outstanding individual, and he's also unafraid. And what he's done at the EPA, he unleashed the most massive deregulation in human history at the EPA. So I think that he's proven that he, at the executive branch level, can do some tremendous good if Lee Zeldin is named there. But the math was interesting, as Ed pointed out, that if Ted Cruz is named, then that would open up that Texas Senate spot so that this bloodbath that's been happening on, there's so much money happening. And I don't like to see friend-on-friend violence in these types of primaries. So that could be a solution for peace. And we know that Trump loves to make deals. We also know that Trump was under a lot of pressure from both camps there in that Texas primary.
Some of the MAGA loyalists starting to come out. Nancy Mace reacting to Bondi's firing, posting a short time ago this on X. If the reports that Lee Zeldin will be replacing Pam Bondi as AG are true, I welcome it, she wrote. Bondi handled the Epstein files in a terrible manner, made this situation far worse than it had to be for President Trump. She went on, I look forward to a new AG committed to getting justice for the victims of Jeffrey Epstein. Was that her? I mean, it almost seemed like she couldn't get past that.
Well, I think it's important that President Trump didn't say anything about that. I think that as far as the Epstein files are concerned, the real culprit in this are the Democrats. The Democrats are doing everything they can here to undermine Trump as it relates to the Epstein files. We know that the victims of Epstein have said that Trump had nothing to do with victimizing women, and yet Democrats are the ones who are going around peddling these lies and trying to undermine President Trump's accountability and his presidency and his effectiveness. And so anything that can be done to eliminate distractions around getting forward the America First agenda, that's what President Trump is focused on. And so I appreciate that the president didn't reference this distraction because that would really be giving air to the left.
Yeah, I'm curious, your thoughts, too. I know you said Zeldin, and we'll see about Ted Cruz. That's interesting strategy you laid out there. But you heard Ed Henry say, whatever it is and whoever it is, if there's ejections on other cabinet seats, it needs to happen fast. The president has just a couple months here before, it's not likely that you'd lose the Senate, but there is question about the House at the moment.
Well, exactly. And regardless of the outcome, Congress, they will be distracted by the elections. And so in order, again, for the president to be effective, he does need to move quickly. And so we'll see. I know your correspondent mentioned a couple other possible cabinet member replacements. I think that this go around, this rodeo, if you will, Trump 2.0 rodeo, he's really learned the importance of putting in people who are unafraid and just completely bold and unashamed, and they're not creatures of the Washington swamp, that he wants people who will drain the swamp, not be intimidated by the swamp, and that's what he deserves.
Carrie, before I let you go, I got to get your thoughts on this, the Republicans coming together in the Senate and the House, pushing through this potentially. We'll see. House is expected to take it up, but the Senate got to work early this morning, pushing back the DHS funding to the House. Your thoughts? Where does it head?
They got to get this done. Again, this can't be a distraction from getting President Trump's agenda done. I flew last night on a Delta airline flight, and I was glad that the TSA staff were all there. There were no delays on that front. Thank God for President Trump for restoring the funding for the TSA team. But this goes beyond just TSA. We've got to get the whole federal government funded, and we can't let the Democrats allow just continue to string along and harm these families of these federal workers.
Carrie Sheffield, the Center for AI and Technology at Independent Women's Forum. Thanks so much for being here. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.